Hi guys, today I'm going to be walking you through Author's Purpose. This is a virtual curriculum through Interns for Good, and I recommend this for 4th through 6th grade. So let's get started. In this lesson, students will learn the basics of author's purpose and how to recognize it in text. You're going to learn the 3 major types of author's purpose, understand its importance, identify clue words, and practice with examples and games. So first, we need to ask ourselves a very important question, and that is, why do writers write? Well, writers write for 3 main reasons: to persuade, or to convince the reader to have the same opinion or point of view; to inform, or to teach or convey information to the reader; and to entertain, to narrate a story, describe something, or simply write for pleasure. So let's look at persuade for a moment. One example of persuade could be if you were going to vote for president. The president would try to convince you to vote for them, to have the same opinion or point of view, convince you to do something. So that would be persuasion right there. What about inform? Well, one example of this could be what I'm doing right now. You're learning through this video, right? So I'm informing you of something. I'm teaching or conveying information to the reader or the viewer, which is you. Another example of inform could be a textbook. And entertain. An example of entertain could be a story, like Cinderella, where we're narrating a story, right? And the author must have just been writing for pleasure when they wrote the story, right? They're also describing a character and a storyline. So these are 3 types of author's purpose. Now, if you're having trouble remembering the 3 types, you can always use this little memory trick. It's PI, so P stands for persuade, I stands for inform, and E stands for entertain. So remember PI for persuade, inform, and entertain. But why is author's purpose important? Well, author's purpose helps us understand the message the author is trying to convey. Because if we know what the author's purpose is, we can figure out the theme, main idea, and other parts of the text. So for example, if we know that the author's purpose of something is to convince us to do something, right? Then we'll start thinking about questions like, well, what is the author trying to persuade us to do? It'll help us dive deeper into the text and understand it at a deeper level. And this can be very handy, especially if we're reading more difficult texts or watching or trying to comprehend more difficult concepts. What should we be looking for? All right, so here's some clues that we can keep in mind while looking for the author's purpose. First, persuade. So some key words that we can keep in mind when looking for persuasive texts are, in my opinion, I believe, I think, should and should not, comparative words like better, best, beneficial, harmful, worse, etc., an argument or claim, opposing sides and controversial topics, like and dislike, and evidence or reasons supporting a side or idea. All right, so if this seemed like a lot to you, don't worry, we're going to break it down. So back to our example of the president, or let's say you're voting for president, okay? So you're running for president. So if you were running for president, well, you're probably going to give some reasons why you should be voted for president, right? You're going to say, I would make a great, or I believe that I'm going to make a great president because, and then you're going to give your reasons, right? You're going to say, you should vote for me. I am the best person to be president, right? Do you see where I'm going with this? So a lot of these words you might use if you're trying to convince the reader or viewer to do something, right? So let's move on. Inform. So texts or videos or any form of media that is trying to inform us of something will most likely have facts and information, data and models or charts, instructions, scientific topics, images and captions, definitions, and maybe formal language. Okay, so let's go look at an example. So remember the textbook I mentioned earlier? Textbooks are always informational because textbooks are telling you facts and information, right? They might have some data and models. They could have instructions. They're going to definitely have scientific topics if it's a science textbook or encyclopedia. There's going to be some images and captions, without a doubt, and maybe even some definitions in formal language. So a textbook will have all of these things. Now remember, not every example you find will have all of the clues that I listed here, but as long as they have 2 or 3, chances are you have found the right type of author's purpose. Entertain. All right, so texts that are going to entertain, or videos or movies or whatever form of media you're looking at, they're going to have characters, such as Cinderella. There's going to be some kind of plot or storyline. If we think about the Cinderella example, well, there's a sequence of events that happens, right? So Cinderella is working as a maid, or she's not working, but she's, doing chores and stuff. She later meets the fairy godmother who helps her go to the ball. She meets the prince at the ball. She runs away from the ball. So there's a list of events. So there's a list of things that are happening, right? It's fictional for sure because it's a fairy tale. It's not real. There's going to be some type of dialogue, hopefully. This is especially applicable to plays and movies and even stories. There might be some kind of theme going on, such as friendship, humor, or emotion, right? So these are all good things to keep in mind if you think that the text is the purpose of the text is to entertain. So now it's your turn. You are a detective searching for clues in the text. Try to find the author's purpose in the following quotes. So if you would like to figure this out on your own, feel free to hit the pause button before I jump into the explanation. All right. Sedimentary rocks form from the remains of plants and animals that lived on the ocean floor long ago, or from the sand and mud remains of ancient rocks. These remains build up in layers and eventually harden to form solid rock. All right, so as we can see here, the author is giving us some facts. They're talking about how sedimentary rocks form from the remains of plants and animals. The remains build up in layers and harden to form solid rock. So they're giving us a bunch of facts. They're also talking about scientific topics, plants and animals, right? Sedimentary rocks, ocean. See, these are all science-y words, right? Ancient. So this can tell us that the author is trying to inform us, right? And the big giveaway here is the facts and science topics that they have given us here. So hit pause if you want to figure this out on your own. With a dazzling golden flash and a crackle of sparks, Lily found herself jerking to a sudden halt. Her eyes flew open in shock, and she saw that she was caught inside a huge glowing golden net in midair, half a foot above the ground. Okay, so we have some fictional elements here, right? Because we have dazzling golden flash, crackle of sparks, we have huge golden glowing net, huge glowing golden net. Okay, so all of these things are, well, they're not things you would find in real life. I don't think you would find crackle of sparks and glowing nets in real life. We also have a character, Lily, right? And we also have a series of events. She jerks to a sudden halt, her eyes open, and she finds herself inside a glowing net, okay? So these are three things, three events that happen in a sequence. So since we have a character, fictional elements, and a plot, we can call this a to entertain. Hit pause if you want to figure this out on your own. A Lexi mattress is the most comfortable bed you'll ever sleep on. Take a 30-day trial and see for yourself. If you're not satisfied, we'll come to your home, remove the mattress, and refund you in full. You've got nothing to lose. Give it a try today. Okay, so we have some comparative words first off. We have the most, right? We also can see that the author is telling us to do something. They're saying, take a 30-day trial and see for yourself. They're telling us to try the mattress. Give it a try today. This give word is similar to should and should not, right? They're trying to tell us to do something, okay? So all of these hints can point us in the direction of B, to persuade, because they're convincing us to do something, they're using comparative words, there's a call to action, right? So all of these point us in the direction of persuade. And on to the last example. If you want to figure this out on your own, hit the pause button. One sunny day, Little Red Riding Hood set off to visit her grandma with a basket of food. Be careful not to stray from the path, said her mother. Little Red Riding Hood promised to be careful and waved goodbye. Okay, so we can see that we have some characters here. Little Red Riding Hood, right? We have her grandma. We have her mother. So these are three characters. Okay. We have a series of events. We have Little Red Riding Hood setting off to visit her grandma. Her mother says something, and Little Red Riding Hood waves goodbye. So we have a sequence of events. We have some dialogue going on here because her mother says, be careful not to stray from the path, right? So these are all great examples of entertain, right? Because the author they have a fictional story, they have some characters, they're trying to entertain us clearly. You can also relate this to the Cinderella story because both of them are fairy tales. All right. So now let's connect it to the real world. Where can we find author's purpose in real life? Well, we can find persuasive texts or media in advertisements, such as the Lexi mattress advertisement we looked at a couple minutes ago. Debates where two people are trying to voice their opinions on the same topic. Essays, sometimes essays can be trying to persuade or convince you of something. You may have written some of these before or looked at them before. News articles can be persuasive if they're trying to voice their opinion on a current topic. Speeches and political campaigns, this goes back to the president example. If they're trying to campaign for themselves as the president, they're definitely going to be persuading you to do something, to vote for them, right? So next, inform. Again, we have the textbook example, right? We have articles, but be careful with this one because articles can sometimes be persuasive, but sometimes they're inform. You can have encyclopedias and documentaries. Those are definitely informational. Newspapers, be careful with this one as well because this was also under persuasive. So never just look at it and think that, oh, it's informational, it's persuasive, it's entertaining. You still need to look deeper into the text and look for the keywords and hints that we went over at the beginning of the lesson. All right. And last, entertain. So stories, plays, TV shows and movies, comics, novels, and poems. Okay, all of these are great examples of entertain. Stories like Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, they have characters, they're fictional, right? Plays, so think about things like Romeo and Juliet, where they're acting out something for the audience's entertainment. TV shows and movies, I'm sure you watch these all the time. They're definitely for your entertainment. And then comics, novels, and poems are also, of course, trying to entertain us. They have some characters, theme, and some kind of story going on, right? So now let's look at some things you can use for practice. The first link is if you're a little less familiar with Author's Purpose. It's just a fun little game to try. I highly recommend it if you're new to Author's Purpose. The next one is intermediate. So if you're feeling a little bit more confident, go for the second link. This is a worksheet. And the last one is an advanced review. So if you're feeling very comfortable and you think you're ready for a challenge, then go for the last one. And that's all for today's lesson. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you next time.